All right.
Hey, Vaughn, sure, it's been a long time, huh?
Yeah, I know. It's like it was just like yesterday or something we last talked.
Amazing.
Um, so this is I've kind of looked into astrology, but I was always just kind of skeptical. So, but for me, I always like to keep an open mind and be skeptical at the same time, rather than being
Waiting.
closed-minded or whatever.
Yeah.
So, um, for me right now, this is just fun. But
Wow,
if
cool.
it like I've had things where it was like, yeah, I'll go into it, see what it's like, and then all of a sudden I'm a believer. Like
Right. Sure.
acupuncture, hypnotism, that stuff. It's worked for me. So, um, anyways, so if I say something that might sound skeptical, I don't mean it personally. It's just like
Oh, no,
I'm
not at
still in reserve. Is all I'm saying.
No, no worries. I would actually recommend people whenever they do, any kind of chart reading or card reading or any kind of thing like that, to always keep in mind that their own personal life experiences, their own intuitions, their own, wisdom that they have is, should never supersede, anything that I tell them. I don't want them to come into me and just run out and be like, oh my God, I gotta change everything. And the cool thing is with astrology that most of the time you will find that a lot of the things in your chart are things that you already know about yourself or that you're already doing. And sometimes it can be a good affirmation that you're either, really fulfilling your personal destiny while you're here, or maybe there's some things that you would like to tweak to get more to where you want to be. So yeah, I have a very common sense approach, if you want to say, to astrology. I'm not really big into people that claim to be mind readers or claim to know everything because I just don't think that's very honest. I had a wonderful astrology teacher named Lynn Hammond Gray here in Atlanta. And I think even from time I was a child, I was very interested in the idea that a time of day, time of year could create, a certain kind of personality or contribute to you as a person. So I've been doing this really most of my life, but professionally for about 20 years. I also write for the Atlanta Aquarius magazine, which I've got a physical copy of it right down here. And I've been doing that for about 9 years, and I'm their primary astrology writer every month.
Oh,
You can actually read this online too, so we can add that to the description for folks that want to just see a basic overview for each month.
um,
So yeah, I've been at it a long time, and being a Capricorn myself, it's a natural born skeptic sign. My mom is a Capricorn too, so it's like I've done it to sort of prove it to myself. And I always enjoy it. Everybody's a little different. Even twins
hmm,
are different.
okay,
And it's very cool to see the difference of patterns and also the similar patterns that you'll sometimes see between two people. And then if you learn something about one, you may go, oh gosh, they've got that too. How
yeah,
cool. When I do my classes here at the house, many times I will take maybe one or two famous charts of that sign and I'll delineate it piece by piece, not telling them who it is, and then they have to guess who it is based on all of the parts of the chart. So it's very fun. It,
yeah,
it really teaches you a lot about yourself, your inner needs, and there's some things that you just kind of can't avoid about yourself. That's like, I do need this. I will be happier with that. And there are certain things that, yeah, they fit in tremendously. There's always pros and cons. Everyone has positives and negatives. Everyone has things in their chart that are really fun and easy, and then things that are more difficult. Some people really do have charts that feel more like an uphill climb. Some people have it where it's very free flowing energy and just everything seems to sort of work for them without a whole lot of effort. Um, so that's why you will see, differences in life path, differences in the way that, why is it some people always seem to have a hard time and others seem to just flow right through?
yeah,
Many times it's because you're out of whack with your own needs. It's like you really deep down know that you need that, but you mentally keep going after something different. So a lot of times, astrology can kind of consolidate that and say, yeah, stop lying to yourself, get truthful with who you are. So I'm going to go ahead and start with your first piece. This is going to be your natal
okay.
chart. The natal chart, of course, the word natal is, like nativity, it's the birth. It's the day of birth. It's the time of birth. So I'm going to say that anybody that has this done, you're going to have a much better time if you have your accurate time. So I'm going to go over your info just to make sure I've got everything right, because I can correct it if need be. So I got you October 4th, 1978, born in Houston, Texas at 8:55 a.m. Is that all
Okay.
correct?
Yep.
Okay, so the wonderful thing is in the computer age, we no longer have to hand calculate these buddies,
Okay.
because back in the day, they would have had to sit down and do all the math, and it's a very laborious process. Now I have this wonderful program called Kepler, and you just plug all that in there, and it shoots it right out. It's almost too easy. So I'm going to just go through it piece by piece as if I was teaching somebody new to the art or the practice. Um, so when people say, "Hey, baby, what's your sign?" they're talking about the sun sign. That means the degree that your sun sign was in when you were born. So that's what a lot of people focus on. It's a very small part of the chart, actually. It's only one out of many, many other influences. So it's almost unfair to base a person just on their sun sign, even though you will get a lot of ideas about what their basic consciousness is, what their basic waking drives are, because that's what the sun sign is all about. It's very generalized if you only go by that. So your sun sign was at 10 degrees of Libra. This is the little Libra symbol right in here. I'm going to write all this down for you.
Okay. Yeah.
um, and so the way that I like to do this is a 3-step system. I will also write that down on the bottom, and you can write it down or just record this for yourself. Anybody that's learning astrology and really wants to understand how to break down the chart, because when you first look at this, it's like, what am I looking at? All these weird little symbols. The sun sign is the actor. The planet is what's acting, right? It's like the actor ready to take on a role. And it has its own, qualities. But the way it's acting is the sign that it's in. That's how it's acting. So your basic personal consciousness, basic waking ego drives, awareness, act like a Libra. How does a Libra act? Libra qualities are balance, harmony, the diplomat. They don't like people to be fighting. They don't like unfairness. They get very upset if there's injustice in the world. So that's, the way the sun sign basically acts. This is also the ultimate sign of partnership. So actually having a partner or having people to do things with for Libra is extremely important. They really don't like having to do things all by themselves. That bugs them. They feel much happier when they're in a partnership or with friends or someone, because it is the marriage sign. Libra rules marriage. It rules all kinds of relationships, whether it's friends, lovers, business agreements, legal document decisions that are binding. It's all that stuff. That's why Libra, it's the scales, it's the law, it's justice. You'll see that symbol all the time in any kind of court. So yes, there are a lot of Libra lawyers. There are quite a few of them. Gandhi was a famous Libra, and he started out life as a lawyer. It's one of the things that helped him do what he did was he knew the law. So that's very much, Libra, they're always got that balance going on. And so they're always very conscious of something being out of balance. So that can make Libra seem a little nutty. It can make them seem a little indecisive. They have a hard time sometimes making a decision because they want to weigh both sides. It's a huge thing. One of my very best friends is a Libra, and oh yeah, she does it all the time. So the next thing I want to go to, since we've looked at the sun sign, I'm going to look at the moon sign, because as the conscious mind of the sun, the moon is more the unconscious drives, right? So the house that your planet is acting in, so you got the planet, that's what's acting. The sign it's in is how it's acting. How does it behave? But where does it act out primarily in your life is going to be the house. That's why you've got these chunks that look like pieces of a pie. And so you've got 12 different houses. Each one of them are ruled by the signs in order. So you'd have first house is Aries, second house is Taurus, third house Gemini, fourth house Cancer, fifth house Leo, sixth house Virgo, seventh house is Libra, eighth house is Scorpio, ninth is Sagittarius, 10th is Capricorn, 11th is Aquarius, and 12th is Pisces. So as you can see from your chart, you've got a lot of concentration right here. It's almost all right there. You actually have really no planets in any of these houses off to the side. It's really normal to have concentrations like that. It's not unusual at all. But what that really means is that you're more focused in those particular areas of your life than somebody that might have their planets spread out a little bit more evenly. Sometimes it's almost easier when they're focused like that because you don't feel as distracted. You don't feel as, as your energy is being pulled in as many directions. So your moon sign sits right on your rising. I'll write this down for you.
Okay.
The rising sign is the sign that's coming up on the eastern horizon of the chart. And so that's why the time of day is so important, because this will change depending on the time of day. And it actually doesn't take very long at all for it to shift. Even a few minutes sometimes can make all the difference in your eyes.
Yeah, Zach Unger, who just commented, he said he was born on the same day as me. So
Wow.
how much a time difference makes is it?
Well, it's going to make a difference in your year, where you're born, because the latitude, longitude all figures into it.
Okay.
So I guarantee, even if somebody's born on the same day as you, even in the same year, if they're born in a different place, different time, it's going to change it quite a bit, even though there will be some big similarities, because you'll still have a lot of the same planet placements. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's interesting. My dad is actually the same. He's a rising Scorpio with a Scorpio moon, just like you.
Okay.
So when the moon sign is in Scorpio, you got a lot of Scorpio, and it's all in this first house. The first house is the Aries house. So this is all about your identity. This is about who you are, who I am. A lot of your life is about coming to grips with who you are and deeply knowing thyself. That's a huge, big deal for you. I would actually say that probably one of the biggest reasons you come into the political arena or want to get into it is because it's a deep digging for the truth and uncovering of corruption, because Scorpio is all about secrets. It's all about mysteries. It's all about things that are hidden. It's the most powerful sign of the zodiac. So the rising sign has a lot to do with the way that you appear to people before they really get to know you, especially. The rising sign is almost like the costume you wear, the package that you come in. And so that's many times what people will first perceive about you. Scorpio is intense. It's magnetic. It's powerful. It can be a little intimidating. You can get into power struggles with people, even if you didn't mean to start one, because they just perceive that you've got a lot of energy and a lot of power, and they can get jealous of that very quickly. And so you're going, I didn't do anything to make them mad, but they're just pushing against you like, no. I would also say that the Scorpio rising can be very quiet in a lot of ways. A lot of times you won't be super chatty, especially when you first meet somebody, because you're more of an observer. You want to observe, you want to watch, you kind of want to see what's going on. It's a very psychological sign. Scorpio rules sex, death, mysteries, other people's money, and raw power. The reason it's the most powerful sign, even though it's not the oldest, it's the 8th sign of the chart, is because it embodies the best or the worst of human nature. So the choices that you make are huge. You're like a high-powered rocket. You can go to the heights or the depths super fast. It's intense. It can be very black and white. So even though you've got that Libra balance of looking, and once you've made up your mind, there's not a lot of gray. It's like, do it or don't. I love it or I hate it. I'm going to go all the way with this, or I'm not going to do it at all. It's an intense kind of passion. Yeah. So yeah, getting to know yourself, getting to know other people is a huge, big deal for that Scorpio energy.
Sorry to interrupt. So what does it mean that I'm in the house Aries? How does that?
I'll explain.
Okay.
So
Sorry.
the interesting thing, like I said, you've got a real concentration here. So your sun sign in Libra is in your 12th house of Pisces. You also have Mercury and Pluto conjunct. What we call a conjunction is when 2 or more planets are 10 degrees or less apart from each other. So when they do that, when they are conjunct that way, they travel together, they influence each other. It's almost like wheels on a chariot. One can't go without the other one following. So for you, it's kind of interesting, even though the rising sign doesn't show that you're going to be super conversational always. You are thinking all the time. The mind is always going. And the reason for that is because Mercury, which rules thought, communication, ideas, conversation, It's right next to your sun sign. So it's an integral part of your basic personality. Communication is huge. It's a huge, big deal to you. That's why I think you like to get the conversations going. Even though you might not yourself take the biggest part in the conversations, you like to get it started. You like to listen. You like to observe, because that's a really important thing for you. And when you do it, it's heavy, it's serious, it's in depth. It's hard for you to skirt the surface because Pluto is the ruler of Scorpio, and it sits right next to your Mercury and right next to your sun sign. It makes you very intense, very deep, lots of layers, lots of layers. So the way that you prefer to communicate is it's with important subjects. It's not light and fluffy and trivial. You don't really enjoy that. That's kind of like, yeah, I can do it because I'm a Libra and I can make nice and I can be fun and friendly because Libra is ruled by Venus. It's very social. It's very, enjoyable. Libra really doesn't like discord. It doesn't really go for disharmony. It likes nice, pleasant interactions and, people that are generally kind to them. But yeah, you can really go deep. There's a very, very strong Scorpio overtone in your chart. The other thing that's fascinating about this is, just like me, you have your sun sign and 2 other planets in your 12th house of Pisces. So that makes you an honorary Pisces, because your basic personality is working itself out in that realm of the fishy, the little fish. The Pisces is the 2 fish. And I will say that this is one of the hardest houses, especially Pluto in the 12th house. This is overcoming a lot of suffering. It's going through lots of stuff. I guarantee you've gone through some stuff in your life. You have overcome some big, big things. Major transformations, things where circumstances have just burned down to the ground, and then you've had to rebuild them, or something has really transformed. It's very Phoenix from the ashes energy, this Scorpio. The reason the Pisces house can be heavy, and it can be prone to depression, it can be prone to addictions, it can be prone to escapism. Those are the negatives. But the positives of the Pisces house are creativity, compassion, a real care for humanity, because there's that feeling of, I know what it's like to suffer and I don't want others to suffer. So it's a very sacrificial sign. There's no doubt why, Jesus was called the fish. They use the fish symbol. Pisces is the fish. It's a sign of sacrifice, and many times of laying down your own needs for someone else. So you have that in you. And this is also a big reason why you would be interested in anything that's spiritual. Like you said, I really would like to believe, I'd like to know more about it, because this is a very spiritual sign. It's very dreamy. It can be a little melancholy, a little blue, but it's powerful emotion. And, in old-timey astrology, which I'm not too fond of in some ways, they would say that this house is like the garbage house, or like, the house of karma, because it's like everything goes through the chart and then it comes to that last house and it's like anything that hasn't been dealt with has to be dealt with there. And I would say that for myself, having a concentration of planets in this house myself, I'm like, well, I don't like feeling like my son is in the garbage house. So what I would say, though, is that, anybody that has that, and it's funny, I know quite a few that do, not just myself, but it's a definite house where you have to overcome some sort of suffering, some kind of challenge. Whether it's depression, whether it's an addiction, whether it's, dealing with people that tend to sap your energy, and kind of putting a firmer boundary on what you will and will not do for them. That's huge. It's really big stuff. And the emotional transformations, the spiritual transformations in your life are bound to happen. They're just bound to happen. It's really, a lot of it's going with the flow, because it's Pisces, it's the fish. It absorbs its environment through its skin. So the kind of people that you're around, the kind of home environment that you maintain are vital. Because if you're in a place where people are really negative and they're really bringing you down, or they're sapping your energy or taking advantage of you in some way, you'll feel it on a really, really deep, core level. So getting back into your Scorpio energy, and so yeah, I'd also mention too, with a Libra Mercury, your mind is very focused again on fairness, balance, justice, seeing the right things happen, and for you that's a something you're very passionate about. Um, so getting back to the rising, yes. So your Scorpio rising with a Scorpio moon sitting on top of that. Now this house is a complete opposite in a lot of ways to Pisces, because this is your first house. You know, the chart kind of starts here and it
Yeah.
goes all the way through to the
Okay.
end. And this is where it kind of begins. That's why that first impression comes from that rising sign, because it's right on that line of, you know, here I am, here's what I look like, here's what I sound like, here's how I talk. This is the first impression that people usually will get of me. And it is, even though you got all that friendly Libra, it's very Scorpio. She's a little dark, a little mysterious, a little hard to figure out. But ooh, so magnetic and so interesting and so powerful. Ooh, I want to go talk to that person. So that's where that comes from. Now, I will say the moon sign in Scorpio can be very tough. It can be very tough because it's very prone to deep, heavy emotions. And it's sometimes very hard to let those emotions out because Scorpio tends to really hold things close to the chest. It doesn't like to show all its cards. I always say it's like the still waters run deep. Scorpio's a water sign, but boy, that water, it's down there in a deep well, and you gotta figure out the secret code to unlock the top of the well, and you gotta make a lot of effort to get to it. So it's like there's a lot of similarities actually between Scorpio and Capricorn, because they both take time to get to know. They don't immediately trust people. It's like, yeah, I'll give you some time and I'll observe you and I'll watch what you do before I really trust your motives. You know, that's the real thing. Is it can be suspicious, it can be jealous, it can be paranoid. There are some really heavy things with Scorpio. But the thing about the moon sign, which I love, and my teacher would always say this, and I absolutely believe it, is that if you really want to feel deep and good and comforted and happy inside, you've got to do the needs of the moon sign. And that means you have to meet the needs of the sign that your moon is in, because it's that unconscious emotion. It's like if you don't do those things, you're gonna feel kind of like, no, it's not quite right. You know, I can't quite get comfortable. It's like when you're trying to go to sleep and the pillow just isn't right. You know, it's that feeling. So to do the needs of a Scorpio moon, you need things like investigation, research, digging in deeper to subjects, understanding your own psychology, what makes you tick, what makes other people tick. Scorpio loves pulling back the layers of the onion and just seeing, well, what's under there, and what's under there, and what's under there. And like I said, it can be for very, very good or very bad. I often say that, you know, it's like the old cartoon with the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. That's Scorpio. That's Scorpio energy. And so you can have that thing where it's going, no, go get him, get that revenge, you know, and anybody that's had a bad experience with Scorpio knows that revenge, you know, but then that other side is like, no, rise above it, you know, do the right thing. And you can see that. Talk about Scorpios. Hillary Clinton's a Scorpio. Can you see that one going? I mean, it's like to the heights or the depths. Scorpios are intense. And when they go bad, ooh, they go bad. But when they're good, they're really good. So it's a real choice that they have to make between the way that they direct that energy. So for you, yeah, doing the needs of a Scorpio moon are important. You need good sexual intimacy. That's a really big part of Scorpio. Sexuality is huge for them. That's why they get that reputation as being like the sex sign, you know, because they do have that need, but it's more an expression of their own emotion, their own depth. And through sexuality, they can do that without a lot of words, which Scorpio is very good at. They're good at communicating without a lot of words. So that's something that they, you know, need as part of their psychological well-being, because it's something where they can really feel that emotional oneness with someone without having to explain a whole lot of stuff. Because often you may feel that there are things that are harder for you to put into words. And as much as you are good at it, as much as you try, as much as you know, put all that out there, it's still, there's a little something. It's like, I can't quite get them to get this because it's so personal, it's so deep, your perceptions are so strong that how can I get them to really feel what I'm feeling? It's a thing. It's a real thing. I would also say that your moods could be very, very up and down, and they could fluctuate a lot. Moodiness, moodiness, moodiness. Oh my goodness. And it's sometimes something that a lot of people won't be able to see because Scorpio, like I said, it's really good at holding on to its control. Self-control is a big thing. So I would say that sometimes you do need to lose control, not in a bad way, but you need to find ways to let the steam off, because this whole thing in here, I'll explain it piece by piece, but this could be like a pressure cooker for you inside. You've got a real combination here. This is, the Aries house, so this is all about your identity. So you really identify very highly with Scorpio. It's almost, it's just like you can't get away from it. Aries energy is fiery. And the interesting thing is that Aries used to be considered the Mars rulership as their sign. And before Pluto was discovered in 1910, Mars was also contributed to the Scorpio sign. It was also, the ruler of both. They used Mars to rule both Aries and Scorpio. So there are some interesting connections there. And I will say, there's definitely that side of Scorpio that's can be aggressive, can be, almost warlike. They can be very, very to the point. And they definitely got that stinger. So it's like, ooh, you got to be careful with that, because when you jab, ow, I mean, you can send your enemies curling into a corner. Absolutely. You can do some damage. So the reason for the moodiness is you've got Mars and Scorpio here right next to the moon sign. Mars is your energy. It's your basic energy drives. It's the masculine sign. So it really shows you the way that you go forward, the way that you like to get things done. For you, it's very important to have time to yourself to get things done. As much as you like the partnership and as much as you need to have those friends and have those colleagues, you also need time on your own. Because for you, a lot of times the creative process is very personal. And if you have too many people adding their spice or their things, to too many cooks in the kitchen, throwing too much influence in there, it can dilute your original vision. So sometimes you do need a little bit of time to yourself. The reason it's moody is because the moon is always changing. The moon is constant. It's always there, but it's always showing us a different face. That's why Cancers are moody. Cancer people are ruled by the moon. And so they're always shifting. They're always there for you, but sometimes they're really down. Sometimes they're really up. Sometimes they're sort of in between. And if you get yourself a moon calendar, this has got a moon calendar in it, and learn the signs that the moon is in, because it changes every 2 to 3 days. Moon is our quickest changer. You'll start to see that's why certain people are acting certain ways on different days. And because the moon is conjunct your Mars, that means that your basic flow of energy it fluctuates. You might wake up one day and say, yeah, I really feel like doing this and I'm going to go get it. And the other day you just go, you know what? I really don't feel like doing that at all. And I would say that also, getting back to Libra, I've never seen a sign like Libra for changeability. It's a cardinal sign, which means it's the leadership-based sign. But boy, sometimes depending on when you meet them, you're going to think they're either a workaholic or that they're just bone lazy, because they can work themselves to death and just, work. And then they just crash and they don't do anything for a while. It's like they just almost burn out. And so finding the moderation, again, is very important. Moderating that energy and making sure you don't, just totally burn the candle out. You're super smart. Part of your, your personality identifies highly with intelligence, and you do value intelligence. You don't really enjoy being around stupid people or people that have a hard time keeping up with you, because mentally you're light years ahead. Your whole identity is based on creating a better future, creating almost a utopian society. And that comes from the influence of Uranus right here. This is the Aquarius ruler, and that's why Aquarians are a little nutty. They're off on their own, bag with all that. They really believe highly in the future. They believe in freedom for everyone. They believe in independence. They believe in truth. Universal brotherhood of all mankind. They really don't believe that there's a separation between people as big as what we think. So that's another reason that you would associate highly with progressive energy. you know, or any kind of thing that feels like it's moving towards a better future, because that's a huge part of you. You just say, yes, that feels right. I know that's right. And so that's a big part of this equation. The fact that it sits next to Mars, oh honey. When you blow up big. And it can take a while because that Scorpio fuse is long. But boy, once that powder hits, I guarantee you can take some people down.
Oh, hopefully that's true. That would be
You,
a goal of mine, I guess, in certain forms.
and the thing is, because of the Scorpio energy, most of the time nobody sees it coming. It can come really out of left field. My advice on that is to be careful. Be careful of your ability for vitriol, or your capacity for toxic rage, because that can really be huge. If you hit the wrong person with it, it can be emotionally devastating. I mean, if you have an argument with somebody, it can be really rough. And because you know their weak spots, you know exactly what's going to hurt them the most because you're a keen observer. And so if you have an argument with them, oh yeah, it can be an ouch. They could take, you know, years or forever to kind of recover, because you can have the you can really get that stinger right. But yeah, if you're going to use that against an adversary, same deal. Again, it's a choice of, you know, how do you use that power? It is, you know, that the old saying about be careful how you use your power. You know, you got strong power, you know, be careful how you use it, because that's really you. You got very, very strong power. This is also connected to Venus. You've got I think 9 or 10 conjunctions in this chart. So you got one, you know, it's like because they're all moving together. One can't go without the other. So in relationships, you also got that Scorpio energy, which is kind of fascinating, because my current relationship is a Venus Scorpio, and so is my ex-husband. I meet a lot of Venus people in Scorpio because my Venus is in Pisces. This is another water sign, so there's a mutual sympathy right there. Venus in Scorpio is also tough in relationships. You have to moderate a lot, and you have to be really careful not to shut down. That's a big theme in your chart, by the way, is making sure that you go outside of yourself and not withdraw too much, because there's a definite tendency to withdraw within. So yeah, in relationships, you definitely have to make an effort to reach out. You have to make an effort to communicate and be open. And in your relationships, you really need to know that you still maintain your autonomy. That's important. Maintaining your independence is important. And it's always, to me, it's fascinating to see somebody with a Uranus conjunct Venus in a committed relationship, in a family situation, because a lot of folks that have that, they're hard to pin down. They go, I don't want that. I want to do my own thing. I don't want anybody telling me where to go, how to do it, when to do it. So, you know, maintaining your independence within the relationship is very important. Having your own, you know, pursuits, your own hobbies or ideas or things that you work on, it's very important to you. But at the same time, it's like you don't want to alienate your partner or alienate the people that you love. So it's like you have to make sure that you're also including them in some of those adventures. So in other parts of the chart, let's see. Getting into some of these guys, when you get past the asteroid belt, it gets interesting because, you know, the asteroid belt separates Mars from Jupiter. So once you go from Mars out to Jupiter, these are the more what I would call generational planets. Almost everybody that's born in that same generation, like I've got the same Neptune sign as you do. You know, there's going to be some similarities that are generational, and it also has a lot to do with why certain generations don't understand the other ones. Like it's that older people going, I don't understand kids, and these kids are going, they don't get it, because the kids are going, they've already done that. They've already done that particular part of the wheel. They're like, I've learned that lesson. I'm not there anymore. I'm in this lesson now. See, we come in with a generation of people that, you know, it's the sexual revolution, for one thing, you know, more sexual equality, because there's that Uranus in Scorpio, which is a sexual sign, and Uranus is a revolutionary planet. So that's a big reason why a lot of the folks of our generation, especially you and me, in that kind of mid-late 70s, have that idea that what's up with equality? You know, whereas people from previous generations, they're like, why do you need that? And we're also definitely a generation of seekers because we have the Neptune and Sagittarius that makes us really inclined to be more philosophical, to seek different spiritual thoughts, different religions, different ideas, different cultures, instead of just being stuck to one only. The way that you make money, here's your money house right here. Second house is Taurus. So this deals with your resources. It deals with your things. It deals with tangible, physical cash or whatever your resources are. When you have Neptune there, it can be a real funny little squick because Neptune tends to be a very ego-denying planet. It's the planet that rules Pisces. So it's all about spirituality and transcendence and letting go of the world. And yet you've got that planet in a very worldly house where it's like, hey, wait a minute. So I would say that with money, the more that you hold on to it, the tighter you try to grasp it, the quicker it goes away. The more generous you are actually with it, the more comes back to you. It's a kind of, you know, counterintuitive idea for most people, is that, you know, the more that you kind of are free and easy with it and you're not worried about it, then it comes to you. And if you can find a way to put, you know, creativity, music, the arts, the humanities, more compassion, more sympathy into your work, it gets even better. Because this is also, it doesn't mean that you don't have money, because there's plenty of very successful people that have Neptune in that placement in their chart. But a lot of it is because they really followed their heart and they really did something that truly mattered to them, or something that was more sacrificial. You know, it's just, that's part of it. A big reason that you have such a love for your children and family and a great deal of loyalty to the people you care about is right up here. This is your midheaven point. Draw a line on it so you can see it. And your midheaven is fun. A lot of astrologers will not get into the midheaven, which is a shame because it's a really cool part of the chart. And it's in Leo. You got the little Leo symbol right up here. And Jupiter, which is magnanimous and very beneficial. It's an extremely lucky planet. It shows where a lot of abundance and where a lot of your happier energy or your optimism lies. And so it sits right on that midheaven line, which is so cool. Now the midheaven is interesting because to me it brings together these two houses, which are the 9th and the 10th. The 9th is the Sagittarius house. So this deals with a lot of your ideas, your philosophies, your goals, your pursuits, your plans, your dreams, your ideals. And then it brings them together with that very tangible, make something happen Capricorn house. Capricorn's all about making something happen and manifesting things. So this really shows you the way that you manifest your career, especially, or your public image. And so with Leo, it's a very strong leadership role, extremely. And again, it can be really good or really bad. It really depends on your choices. To give you an example, two people that both had a Leo midheaven were Gandhi and Hitler.
Oh, boy. How
could you get more different than that? And it's interesting because Gandhi was also a Libra, and he also had a Leo midheaven, like you. So this is a very strong leadership role. No matter how it comes out, it's big, it's noticeable. Leo is a performer. Leo puts on a show. It says, come see what I'm doing. That's Tim Black. He's a Leo. You know, check out that energy. It uses humor. It uses, you know, some color and levity, a sense of presentation. And so that's where you get that energy. But it's also, Leo loves children. It loves animals. And it's more than Cancer. Cancer is more like the responsibility of it. Leo is the fun of it. Leo sees how fun it is. We can play games, we can sing songs, we can do all this cool stuff. Let's try it. You know, that is very Leo energy. So there's a lot of strength in this position. It makes you incredibly loyal to people. It gives you a natural leadership role. Whether you want it or not, people will look to you because you project this up here, especially on the job, especially at career, and especially at work. Whereas your rising sign is the first impression, the midheaven to me is the more um, highly evolved part of where that public image goes. You know, it's the more long term, and it's also, again, it's very much the way you create your career, and you do that through the strength of your personality. You do that through your generous spirit. It's very interesting because Leo and Scorpio are very different. They square each other. You can see that 90-degree line right there. So they actually challenge each other quite a bit, and you might be challenged by that. You might say, you know, sometimes I really rather just not be in the spotlight, but you get pushed into it anyway. Yeah. So that's something you're just gonna have to deal with, Ebon. That's it's a paradox. That part is a paradox because there's a part of you that likes to be the power behind the throne, but then sometimes you're the one on the throne and you can't get away from it. Yeah. So getting into the 11th house here, this is your Aquarius house, and this is, you know, Aquarius is my favorite, one of my favorites, because it's a radical planet. It's my rising sign is Aquarius. That's why I'm attracted to all this, you know, crazy radical stuff. That's a big part of it. So in this house, you have Saturn. Saturn is the Capricorn ruler, and Saturn is a super serious planet. It's where you have to learn lessons in life. It's also where you usually try to manifest some real results in your life. And the Aquarius house is all about the mass consciousness. It's about large groups of people. It's about movements. It's about revolutions. It's about people, you know, changing the course of history. Aquarius is radical stuff. It's definitely the protester. It's definitely the person that just says, I'm going to be myself and the hell with anyone who tries to get in my way. So this is all about connecting with groups of people and reaching everyone on a larger scale, because they're definitely there to change the world. So that's why a big part of you says, I really want to get out there and I want to do something. I want to make a difference. Saturn being in Virgo is all about learning lessons of health, of routine, of habits. It's also about service to humanity, because Virgo is an ultimate, I want to help you. I want to do something for you. Mother Teresa energy is Virgo. You know, it's like, I'm going to be out there. I'm going to be serving, helping, healing some way. So it's a really great combination, actually. I love the combination of, you know, this Virgo working itself out in the Aquarius house, because the Aquarius house is very much about helping the world at large, and Virgo energy is about serving humanity very hands-on. So it can really be, and it's very good at organizing as well. So this can be a great position for organizing big groups of people, you know, for getting people to come together or giving them an idea of something that could be better for them, you know. And just like a kid saying, I don't want to take that medicine, you might run into, you know, resistance from that. It's very possible. You'll have resistance. You'll have people like, I don't want it. I can't take that. Ew, it might taste bad, you know, etc. But, you know, you're going to say, well, you know, maybe I'll use my little Libra. I'll give you a little sugar in that spoon just to help it go down, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. Now, when I get into the north and the south node, very fun, very interesting. Here's your little south node down here, and it's in Pisces in the 5th house, and here is the north node up in here in the 11th house in Virgo. These are lunar points. These actually are based on the movements of the moon, and so they're different for everybody. It's funny, me and Jamal, we both have the same, because we're in very, very close together in birth time, but yours is different. So I would say it's kind of fascinating, because if you go for the whole idea of reincarnation or karma or past lives, your past lives were very spiritual ones, extremely so. It might be a surprise, because if you're a skeptic now, there's a reason for that. Because you probably, I mean, it reminds me when I was looking at this and I was reading more about the, you know, the Pisces South Node, I said, oh, it's kind of like my friends. When I was living in Oregon, I went to a Zen monastery to do meditation. And I got to be friends with some of the people that, you know, actually lived in the monastery, and they've been doing it for many years. And sometimes, you know, one of them might, you know, have lived in the monastery for a very long time, and then they went out into the world and, you know, were living as a regular person out in the world, getting a job and having a place and, you know, doing an everyday life, you know, which most people do. For you, I almost feel it's the same kind of energy. You probably did spend a lot of time either in monasteries or in prayer or in some kind of spiritual, philosophical energy pattern. That was a huge theme for you. Vows of poverty, vows of, giving things up, is, very sacrificial lifetimes that you've had. And so as a result, some of those experiences may not have been very good. And so you go, well, I really got taken advantage of, by this or by that, or maybe, I gave up too much. And so this time around, you're kind of going, well, let's be careful about that now, because I've done that before and I know what it's like. So you've definitely done the spiritual lifetimes. And because it's in that fifth house, it's, Leo has that royalty thing, it has that leadership thing. You might have been very high ranking. You might have had a leadership position, or been somebody that organized things, or someone that, was kind of a figure for others of inspiration. So it's very possible. So this lifetime, it's very different because you're going into a Virgo lifetime. This is definitely a serve or suffer life. Absolutely. Then and now. It's definitely, if you don't do stuff to help people, if you don't go outside of yourself in some way, you aren't happy. It's like, it's not enough for you on either level to just serve yourself. It never works. And there's definitely a part of you, I would say, you probably are not super acquisitive. It's not like you really feel like you need a bunch of stuff. There's a deep knowing inside of you that more things is not going to make you happier. It's just not going to work, and even if you try, it's like, that's not doing it for me. But there's an innate sort of knowing that more stuff doesn't equal more success or contentment, and that's why for you, holding on to money, holding on to things, it might almost feel dirty to you. It might almost feel like that's, I don't want the energy of that. I don't want the heaviness of debt or the heaviness of that sort of financial burden. I don't want to have that on me. So it's almost hard for you to not give things away. It's very tough. And so this is also why it's very important, yet again, I can't stress this enough, you have to reach outside of yourself. You have to go outside. As soon as you start connecting with others, as soon as you start talking to other people, doing things for other people, it heals something inside of you. It's like, oh, good. Because the natural tendency from this past life pattern is to withdraw. It's to go within. It's to shut down and kind of tune the world out, because you've done that a lot. There's been a lot of lifetimes where, spent in either meditation or solitary, time of spirituality. It's like, I don't, so you need to go outside and connect now. And the tendency, though, is to go inside, because it's very easy for you to do that. You know how to do that. You know how to entertain yourself. You know how to basically be okay and fine on your own. But that's not this lifetime. This lifetime, what you're trying to get to is this. And so you do have to use a little bit more critical thinking as well, because the other negative, of course, is that in a lot of the past incarnations, you may have been a victim. And you have to remind yourself, a good mantra, this is not a victim lifetime. This is not a lifetime of victimization, because you probably were. Pisces many times gullible. Tell Pisces gullible isn't in the dictionary, and they'll go, really? Yes. They're true believers. They're true believers. And so part of your natural talent, and this is also why you have a natural healthy skepticism, as part of your lifetime. It's a gift that you've been given to help you not fall prey to this again. So that's a good thing. It's actually good for you to use your skills of discernment and to not just fall for anything that comes down the pike. And so in some ways, I would almost say that it's maybe a little counterintuitive, but you don't want to get too deep into any sort of spiritual thought. You don't want to give yourself over to it to the point where you can no longer think critically for yourself. That's very important. That's part of this lifetime. And even with this, it's like, take it as part of a whole, thing, as a practice, but don't rely on it heavily. That's just, to me, but that's good common sense. But that's definitely part of your lifetime. The other thing that's great about Virgo is that it is there to serve, it's there to help, and it's there to heal. Virgo rules nutrition, it rules medicine. So that's part of, the whole thing, routines. That's why Virgo, the Virgin, it's purity, right? All about purifying, clarity, Clarity of mind, clarity of body, eating good foods, taking good care of yourself. These are all very important, you know, having good routines that are healthy for you and for others, because your health will suffer if you don't follow that, and you'll feel it, you'll know it in your stomach. It's like, oh, something's not quite right. If you either ate something you shouldn't have, said something you shouldn't have, gone somewhere you shouldn't have, you'll feel it deep in your gut. um, so it's interesting. I just want to mention as well, you know, getting into these houses that are not filled, it doesn't mean that you don't have things going on in these areas of your life. It just means that it's not as concentrated, you know. It's just not as heavy of a focus. I would say, you know, so you got Taurus is what rules your, like, your relationship house, marriage house. So it's a very solid sign. You know, Taurus is very loyal, and once it's entrenched, doesn't really like to change. It likes to really root. It's very grounded. It's very earthy and stubborn. And it's Venus ruled, so it really does value its relationships very highly. So it's not that you don't have things going on in there. It's just that overall, I think the main focuses of your lifetime are definitely into spiritual awareness and self-identity awareness. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I meant to do? That's a major focus for your life. You know, and it doesn't mean that you don't have other energy in other parts of the you know, experience, but that's a big direction for you. It's like, I gotta get to the root of why I'm here. You're not going to be satisfied till you peel back all those layers. Another thing I'm going to bring up too is you are a life path number 3. The way that you get that is, this is basic numerology. You add up the numbers of your month, your day, and all the numbers in the year, and you get a single number. It actually comes to the number 30, that you add the 3 and the 0 together to get a single number. Life path numbers go 1 through 9. The number 3 is an awesome number. It's one of my favorite numbers for a life path because it's very building, very creative. It's a kind of an architect kind of mindset. You're always building something. You're always wanting to create something. There's always something going on, and you're very good at it. You know, you're just very good at putting together all the pieces and making it happen. Your current life year is a 6. The way you get that is by adding your month, your day, and the current year all together. So you get a 6 from that. So this year, I would say, is more directed on relationships. And I think it's really cool. Like, you take time, you know, you say, I want to reserve this space of time for family and for togetherness, because the 6 is very important with togetherness. It's all about the relationships. And you are a earth horse in the Chinese cycle, and you are born in a new moon, because that's, you know, the new moon always starts in the sign that it's in. So you're in a new moon cycle when you were born. And also your hour of birth in the Chinese is the hour of the dragon, which I am a year and hour of the dragon. So you've got a little bit of that fire in you that, you know, you don't like to be challenged too much. It's kind of like, you'll get the fire if you harass me. Don't harass me, you'll get the fire. And yeah, if you don't get your way sometimes, woo, yeah, it can be a little bit feisty. But the cool thing about the horse relates very much to Gemini energy in the Western zodiac. And so there's, you know, Gemini obviously is a communicator. It likes to move. It's a little restless. Think about the horse. A wild horse got to run free. The cool thing about the earth horse, however, is that it's a little more stable. It's a little more grounded. And because you're born in the autumn, which, you know, the seasons make a big difference in Chinese astrology, an autumn horse that's got the earth element is going to be probably one of the most stable, reliable, calmer horses than the rest of them. Because a lot of horse people can have these really crazy lives where they're just, you know, bon vivant all over the world, here the day, gone tomorrow, they're living here, they're living there, can never really, you know, pin them down.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no worries. So yeah, it's actually a really nice pattern of energy you've got with the horse year. things that I would mention is that this year would be a more challenging one because it's the year of the rooster, which actually creates a square 90-degree pattern to the horse. So this is a more challenging year. But at the same time, this could be a year of very high motivation where, you know, you've got a little bit of that friction going because that square can create that friction. This is a square pattern. Because you've got so much, you know, concentrated here, you don't have a lot of lines between the planets. These lines basically show the relationships between the planets, but most of yours are conjunct, so that's your relationship. You're not getting a lot of lines drawn through the aspectarian here. But yeah, this could be a more challenging year, you know. But it's friction, and friction can create that fire and drive you forward at the same time, so it's not all bad, you know, but it's really like, you kind of feel like you can't sit still. It's like, I got to get up and do something. Next year is going to be more free-flowing. It's a dog year, which is attributed to Libra. So it's going to be a lot more free-flowing. Actually be a really good year for you next year. I'm just going to go over your transits real quick. We're actually getting close to 4 o'clock. I can't believe how fast it can go by. But this is the same chart that we just did. Right? It's right in the middle. This is you, right in the middle here. And so this wheel that's outside of it is the transit. The transit is what's happening right now. You know, the planets are not static. They don't just sit still. They obviously are going to move. They're going to do things. They're not going to be in one place forever. So your natal chart sits in the middle, and then these are moving around. And, you know, if you did this chart again, printed it another year or two, you'd have a lot of movement. Even if you printed another, you know, month, there's a lot of movement. And that really contributes to different cycles and different patterns and why certain times seem more challenging than others or easier than others. I would say for the last 2 years, actually really for a while, I would even go as far to say maybe like a 6, almost 7-year pattern has been a huge time of rebuilding who you are, rediscovering who you are. About 6-7 years ago, you would have gone through a couple years where you just didn't have a lot of energy, and there was a lot of maybe even depression or feeling like, what's my purpose, or what am I meant to do, and deep like soul searching, you know, kind of figuring out, well, I got to do this, I got to do that, but really not having a lot of physical energy to kind of get it done, just having a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts and a lot of feelings. So if you get back into the last 4 years, about the 4-year pattern, that would have really signaled a couple years where you were really rebuilding your identity, you know, rebuilding the self and kind of going, what are my core values? What's important to me? What is it that I want to reflect in my personality out to the world? Now for the last 2 years, Saturn's been moving through this Taurus house, which deals with your resources. So this really simplifies and clears away a lot of clutter, and it makes it much more obvious to you what is actually your most important areas of life. What do you want to put your money into? What do you want to put your time into? And so that's, yeah, you've gone through some kind of deep soul searching, some deep kind of, you know, times, a lot of struggle, you know, to try to get to a greater clarity of where you want to go. Thankfully, this is almost over. You got about 6 more months with Saturn in that second house, and it'll clear up a lot after that. You're already kind of in that home stretch of feeling like, you know what? I think I've got this a little bit more figured out. I think that I actually am starting to feel better. You know, I'm actually starting to see where I really want to go here. Getting into the third house, that'll happen next year, late this year, be around December. That's when a lot of things communication-wise will start to take shape. Because Capricorn energy, Saturn energy, it's always about making something work. It will get rid of the clutter, it will get rid of the unnecessary, and focus on what's truly useful and what's really of value. So keep an eye out for that. That's going to be, you know, continuing to move through there. Jupiter, interestingly enough, this goes through one house every year. Each planet moves at a different rate. So say Saturn, you know, takes about 2.5 years in one section of your chart. Jupiter takes 1 year through each section, so it takes a full 12 years for it to make one full rotation through. Um, like we've got the super slow guys like Pluto, it's only moved from here down to here in your whole life. It's super slow. You will not get a full Pluto transit in our lifetime. We're just not going to be alive long enough to do it. Probably the one that we get that you have the most possibility of experiencing is Uranus. It takes about 84 years to go one full rotation through the chart. That's why a lot of times you'll see little old people that suddenly get this new burst of energy and suddenly they're just electric and they're doing all this stuff. It's because they got that Uranus return. It was like, oh, wake up, and they're just all over the place. It's like, dang, you're 85 and you're that's what I'm saying. If Bernie lives long enough, we'll see what happens to him. You get that Uranus return. But yeah, so this is fun. So yeah, Jupiter in the 12th house. It's actually moving across, because it's in Libra right now, so it's actually moving across your Libra planets. And again, Jupiter is about expansion. It's a big planet, and so it has an expansive kind of energy to it. And it opens up our horizons, and it helps us push past old limitations. So when it comes to your persona, your basic spirit, your basic personality, you are pushing past a lot of limitations right now. A lot of doors that might have been closed to you previously kind of start opening up. And part of that can feel really good. Part of it can feel kind of scary. A lot of times I say, somebody says, well, why am I not having all the good stuff, with the Jupiter transit? Because it's supposed to be really positive all the time. So sometimes like growing pains. And sometimes when you have to go through that next threshold, it can be scary or it can be painful because you have to take that next step. So it's kind of like, don't be afraid, when things start to open up or things start to, become more clear. It's like, time to go, it's time to move. So yeah, there's just a lot of very good stuff happening here. Mars is going up through the 9th and crossing into the 10th, which means it will be passing over Jupiter. So we can give you an actual date when that will happen. Here's my little aspectarian. This is super detailed. It is an ephemeris that shows you the degree by degree movement of all the different planets. It shows you when one is retrograde or not, etc. So you can actually see where that's going to be. It'll actually be close to your birthday. Yeah, right. About the month before your birthday, Mars will be up there at the top of the chart. Yeah, it'll be August, early August, and it'll go all the way through September when Mars comes across there, which will actually give your career a big boost of energy. You'll feel even more driven than before to get it going, and it will probably have something to do with live presentation, some kind of performance. There is always that element of the theater with Leo. It always is. It's like, we'll put some color and some drama and a little bit of something into this to make it more eye-catching, so it's not just about the content, it's about the way you package it. It's about how appealing it is. It's a little bit of both coming together. And that to me is a big way that you can make that really intense, heavy Scorpio energy, it's very secretive, work a little bit better with the Leo energy, which is very public and very, extroverted. It's the extrovert versus the introvert, is by having the depth and having, those Scorpio subjects where there's a lot of good information and there's a lot of truth and there's a lot of revealing of, secrets and mysteries. Scorpio loves to reveal corruption. Oh my God, because they know corruption. They're like, I know what the dirt's like, so I know where to find it. They they have a real ability for it. Why do you think someone like Hillary hides her secrets so much or is so paranoid all the time? Because that woman's got some dirt. That's a negative Scorpio right there. She's got some dirt, and she's very invested in keeping the secrets covered, very much. Interesting also that there's always those rumors about death or, things like that or murder around her, because Scorpio does deal with death as well. It deals with those very heavy life and death subjects. But, I digress. Getting into the Scorpio for you, I think you're using your powers for good, you know, that means that you can actually use that same power to take that magnifying glass and do some very deep research and very deep investigative work. You know how to do it. It's like second nature to you, really. And so you can reveal a myriad of things. You'd be like, uh-oh, does anyone know about this? And then you can put it, you can take these heavier kind of dark subjects and put them together in a way that are more accessible or more appealing to people. So it's a kind of great concept. The other thing too is that you're in the middle of a very long Pluto transits are always long, but there he is down in the third house, and there again is that Scorpio ruler. It's moving through your third house of Gemini, which is communication house yet again. So where that's all moving out, where your research, where your investigative mind is going is towards communication. It's going towards putting it out there. It's like, it's not enough for me to know it. I got to put it out there for other people. And that's your lifetime. This is definitely a life where you have to resist the urge to withdraw into yourself, into your shell, and actually, you know, put it out there and reach out to other people. It's vital for your personal growth. This is the last chart I've got, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on it because it's more deep astrology. This is a progressed and solar arc chart, so this again is you in the middle with the progression and then the solar arc on the outside. Getting down to just the heart of it is that your progressed sign is Scorpio. Not a surprise. Got a lot of that going on. You've been in it for 19 years. And the way that a progressed chart works is a day for a year. So however much a planet moves for a day, in the progressed chart, it moves that much for the year. So the sun moves 1 degree per day through the signs, okay? So in a progressed chart, it takes a year for the sun to move 1 degree. So when you were born, you were at 10 degrees of Libra, and you were about 20 years old when it progressed into Scorpio. It doesn't mean you're not still a Libra, but what it is it's almost like, all right, I'm a Libra, but somebody changed the channel, and now I'm watching something different, or I've got to channel that through a different avenue. This isn't new energy for you because you've been in it for 19 years, and you will be in it for about 10 to 11 more until you progress into Sagittarius. We only usually get about 3 or 4 progressed signs in a lifetime. But all Libras, you live a long enough time, will all get a Scorpio progression. They all get that. And so you are going to go always through that part of life that is more deep, that's more insightful, that's more, you know, probing, that's more intense, more powerful. So even though you have, like I said, it's a combination yet again, because Libra is very friendly. It's very harmonious. It's an extrovert, whereas Scorpio is more of an introvert. So you can definitely use that Libra way of, you know, getting along with people, making contacts, socializing, etc. But then you can blend in that extra color of the Scorpio, which is to go deep. It's to have, you know, once you've made that initial contact, or once you've made that initial friendship or you know, partnership, then you can go deep and start saying, well, let's talk about what really matters. But it's definitely a part of you. You've also got a lot of Sagittarius progressions, and therefore there is, again, the search for the ultimate truth. Sagittarius is all about the search for the ultimate truth. Not an easy thing to find, because there's a lot of ideas and a lot of different things out there. And so that's why they search a lot. That's why Sagittarius is known for being a traveler. They're known for just kind of going to the heights and the depths. So it's not wrong to entertain different thoughts, different ideologies, practices such as astrology in your search to find the ultimate truth of what works for you. So Ebon, that's where I'll kind of wrap it up for now.
All right, awesome.
Yeah,
I've got probably 2 technical questions. Well,
okay.
First I'll say, as much as I'm skeptical, it does hit home. I would say 95% of it seems applicable. And so the first question is, how what would have been different if I had this reading 15 years ago or 15 years from now?
Right.
What would
That's a
be a
very good
difference?
question. The thing that I would say is that if you'd done it when you were a lot younger, is you may have not experienced as much in life, and therefore maybe some of it wouldn't have rung as true.
Okay.
Because you're going, well, I haven't gone through that yet, so I don't really know what that's about. There's certain obstacles, challenges you might have been able to sort of go, well, maybe I don't necessarily have to go through that part. But at the same time, there's a part of me that believes that a lot of these energy patterns and the things that you go through are not mistakes. You know, they're definitely meant for your overall betterment or development, even if they're very tough. Um, the thing that happens when as you get older is you have the benefit of hindsight. You know, you can kind of look back and go, "Oh yeah, I see all that." So it's interesting. You know, when I first got my full chart done, I was an older teenager, so I'd had a little bit more experience, but not a ton, and I could kind of see what was coming. But boy, when I got there, it was like, oh, it's like I kind of knew that those patterns of energy were there, but you don't always know exactly how they're going to play out. That's
Okay.
the thing. Because to me in astrology, like I said, there's always the pro and the con. There's always a more positive way to look at an aspect and a more negative way to look at an aspect. And it really depends on the way that you work with it. It's so much to it. Because there can be some very hard transits, and I've been through some of them, boy, especially the last 10 years. I sometimes can't believe I lived through them. And I knew that they were coming, you know, in advance, but you still have to live it. You still have to work through that energy. But at least knowing it made me realize, yes, I know this is what I'm supposed to be learning some certain things in here. Even though it's making me crazy, I'm not actually crazy. It's, you know, there's a method to the madness. So that's, I think, you know, a big part of if you'd done it sooner, you may have seen the energies coming. You may have said, you know, some of this looks pretty good, some of this looks pretty tough, you know, up and down. But it doesn't necessarily mean you can avoid it all. You know what I mean? It's just that you might work with it a little more gracefully. You might work with it a little bit more steadily because you kind of realize, yes, even if it's tough, there's going to be an important lesson. There's going to be an important outcome that I get from this trial by fire. And certainly, you know, it's even though, you know, you and I were kind of at sort of middle age, you know, and it's kind of an interesting time of life because you have enough hindsight to kind of look back and go, oh yeah, I have gone through some of that. But you also haven't lived so long that it's like, none of it really matters anymore because I've done it all. You know, if we were 80, it would be a little different. It'd be like, whatever, you know, I've done it. So there's still quite a lot of benefit for you, you know, to look at this stuff because, yeah, I mean, and everybody's a little different. I mean, I have clients that would probably come see me once a week if they could. You know, some people do it once a month, some people once a year on their birthday, just because, you know, they're checking in to see, you know, what's going on and how things are moving or how things are transiting. Or maybe they've got a big decision they want to make and they want to know, is the energy, you know, open for that, or should I wait a little longer? And sometimes that can be extremely helpful. So, you know, to me, again, it's one of those things that's a personal basis. And, you know, some people are going to totally jive with this and some people are going to go, I don't know, you know. But overall, I would say that if you have your accurate data and you get it all together, yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that just naturally seem to vibrate with you because it's part of who you are.
Okay. Sorry. Second one. We could probably go more into that later.
Yeah.
Math. You said that there's a lot of math involved and positions of planets and suns, and so is there a lot of astronomy and physics? Like, where's the center of where all the positioning stems from? Is it from the Earth? Is it from the sun?
Yeah.
Is
These
it
are
from?
geocentric. These are geocentric.
Okay.
And
Well,
of course, I would imagine some people might have done it around the sun in the old days. But yeah, there's actually a long historical connection between astrology and astronomy. Especially before the sciences became more distinct and more separated. Therefore, um, but yeah, no, there is. I personally, I'm not a super mathematical thinker, so it's actually really great that I have the program that can do some of that
Okay.
calculating for me,
Yeah.
because that's kind of dry work.
Yeah.
It's I mean, and it's it's just part of
Almost
calculating.
done.
You do it with along with the
What was
day,
that?
the time, the latitude, the
Almost
longitude.
done. He's still kind of sleepy. All right. So last thing, because we went over an hour. How do people contact you if they want a reading? And is there anything else you'd like to add in? This is basically your last words. Although you're always on it after hours and anything goes,
Yes.
but for those
Um,
just seeing you,
Yeah, well, anybody that's interested can, get in touch with me at my email, which is usually the best thing that I always check, which is Ariel Rose Astrology at hotmail.com. You can also reach me through my business phone, which is 404-256-4477. It's a really fascinating subject. It's a fascinating study. I think that if you're looking for, some deeper clarity on anything, any area of your life, it can sometimes be extremely helpful. And if anybody sees this and decides they want to set something up, and you just let me know that you saw this video, and I'll give you my friends and family discount on any session that you set up.
all right. Thanks, Ariel.
Thank
And
you, Ebon. Have a great
yeah,
day.
you too. I'll see you later tonight or tomorrow night.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
Take care.
Thank you, everyone. In chat.